So today I'm going to just talk very briefly, 3 minutes, about some work we've been doing on monitoring quality of life, and particularly by trying to measure activities of daily living for persons who live at home. And we've been looking at that, trying to do it using sparse and low-cost sensor data. So this work is taking place obviously in the larger context of trying to support older people. We have a particular focus on persons with dementia who are living independently at home, and of course we want to encourage that for longer to enable their quality of life and to ensure their quality of life by allowing them to live at home for longer. So much effort in this area is being directed at reliably detecting activities of daily living from sensor data. So what we want to show here is a study that we did and present the results of machine learning models that we applied and collected using a small number of low-cost, off-the-shelf passive sensors that were retrofitted into real homes, and some of them with more than a single occupant. So the participants in our study were 5 participants, 3 males, 2 females. They were not, I suppose, the target users. This was a pilot study. Our participants didn't have any cognitive or physical impairments, and they carried out a set of 14 activities. I'll show these in a further slide over the course of 1 week in their home. They recorded a log of the activities that they were undertaking using a journaling app called A Tracker on an Android tablet. And the information that we collected via the Android tablet, then they were used as ground truth labels for the sensor data. We used 6 main sensors around the home. These came from the AIME sensor toolkit. We used motion sensors, door sensors, power, ambient sensors that looked at temperature and humidity, pressure sensors, and these would, I suppose, have been kind of passive sensors, let's call, around the home. And we also used Bluetooth beacon sensors. These are small sensors that look something like a key fob that you can attach to objects around the house. So the idea was that you could detect interaction with objects around the house. So for example, a beacon sensor, on the remote control for the television, it can pick up that kind of activity. The typical sensor kit composed of 25 sensors, and it can cost on average £412, including the hub components. And that's just a quick overview of what the monitoring architecture looked like. As I say, the AIME sensors were the core of the toolkit, including the gateway. The hub was a Raspberry Pi, and we had our interface device there was an Android tablet. We applied, after we collected the data, we analysed it using 5 different machine learning models. These were a support vector machine, naive Bayes, logistic regression, and a perceptron model. There's some details there really about the architectures of the model, there's more details about those in the paper, and I'm happy to talk about them later on in the Wonder Me session. But what we did was we calculated the accuracy for each of these algorithms as a ratio of all the correctly labeled data. And we wanted also to look not only at the overall accuracy of each algorithm, but we also wanted to compute the accuracy for each of the individual activities that we were trying to measure. So what did we find? The RNN, the recurrent neural network, that achieved the highest average accuracy overall. It correctly recognized 65.59% of the activities, but it was followed very closely by the perceptron, which had an accuracy of just over 65%. The other models, the SVM, had an accuracy of just over 59%, logistic regression 58%, and naive Bayes performed quite poorly at 53%. So the recurrent neural network, I suppose, had the highest overall accuracy, let's say, across all of the tasks, and significantly outperformed the others. And we hypothesized that the superiority of the recurrent neural network is due to its inherent feedback architecture, which allows it to hold information about the previous state of the model in memory. And it, of course, performed very well then on tasks where they took place over a longer time period. So, for example, something like the sleeping activity is completed in 8 hours, so it had a suitable time window there for tracking the activity. But something like laundry, which it typically took 40 minutes, it wasn't as well able to retain, information there. The RNN model is clearly better able to adjust its weight during the training step and adaptively retain this information. And this is just showing there as I say, the recurrent neural network, it significantly outperformed the other algorithms when we were looking at the accuracy across all of the tasks. We also wanted to look at the individual activities and to look at the accuracy of the models for each of the individual activities. And I'll show you the individual activities on the next slide. Here, what we found that the RNN was much better than any of the other algorithms in recognizing a wider range of activities more reliably than the perceptron, even though those two seemed to be quite close when we were looking across the activities. However, there were 7 activities that had very low F1 scores across all the algorithms: washing dishes, mealtime, food preparation, watching TV, sleeping, reading, and grooming. So you can see here, these are the F1 scores across individual activities in terms of decreasing RNN F1 score. So as I say, the RNN the recurrent neural network significantly outperformed the other activities. But as you get towards the end of the table there, you can see that all algorithms are pretty poor at recognizing some of these individual activities. And we were quite surprised by some of these activities, for example, like, watching TV. Some of our models were not able to pick that up at all. So what is the conclusion? I think the recurrent neural network shows promise given a limited number of cheap off-the-shelf sensors and a low number of training examples. But what we did find, there was activities that involved a distinct number of subtasks were very difficult to detect. So for example, meal times, that might involve laying a table with cutlery or plates and sitting at a table. The same thing for maybe doing the laundry. There's a number of steps involved there, and most of the algorithms were not good at picking up these distinct subtasks. Also, of course, real users have different routines. So for, the example, we think that, breakfast might be a faster event. It might involve fewer tasks than eating dinner. And, real users, again, might do these things at different times of the day. So you really need careful consideration for the setup, the combination of sensors to capture activities. And high levels of personalization are likely to be necessary for actively detecting many activities over time. Of course, we need more data and larger data sets collected over longer periods of time to analyze the user habits. So thanks for that, Anea. I hope I stayed within the 3 minutes there.